So this is something that I find a little bit more of a personal share from me, because it was something that I kept quite quiet, but it was something I was very interested in and helped me a lot last year as I went through a little bit of a downward period in terms of my mental health, and obviously saw a dip in training, saw a huge kind of lack of drive across all fronts, and felt in a little bit of a frozen state. And this is something that I think a lot of guys go through that don't really have the ways out with, and I think that it's something that's not spoken about enough clearly in the UK. In the USA, I think it's more prominent, and there's a lot more kind of, healthcare and prioritization of this subject. But yeah, what I want to talk about in today's video is TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, and my thoughts on it, my experience whilst taking it, and my advice to anybody who is considering taking it. If you clicked on this video, you're considering it or you're interested in it. First of all, I'll talk about my story with it, and I'll talk about where I'm at now with it. And I think this will be very interesting for you, because I think it's something that we should know about more in the UK. So about June last year, I was just like, training had felt stagnant for a while. I was depressed. Like, I felt super low and super, just out of touch with everything. I was a bit reclusive, and the reason for that is because I lived in Indonesia and Bali for a whole year. I had to leave, and because things just weren't quite working in terms of working with the UK business, being out there. I felt as if I'd lost kind of my direction. The first 6 months I was there, things were absolutely fine. About halfway through that, I just felt like it was hard to get back on track with things, because I came back to the UK and then went back out there, and it just felt like it wasn't working. And because I had to leave and I came back in November, and for anyone who's watching this knows that November in the UK is the start of like a really tough winter period, which you don't get enough daylight, you don't get enough stimulation, you're looking at screens way too much, and the lack of vitamin D, even though you supplement things, it still affects you. There's still a lot of negative things about being in the UK in the winter. It's still a very tough period for mental health, and I think that, along with the fact that I had to leave a place that I loved living in and just come back and sort certain things out, I just found it really hard to get into a flow of things again. And I think most men have an instinct in their body, which is kind of like a hunter-gatherer kind of instinct, and that's our primal kind of thing that's embedded into us. And I think when you lose that, it can affect these things. So that was obviously November 2023. Going into June 2024, I decided to take a blood test, which I'd done before with Medichecks. They're not sponsoring me, but really I'm giving them some free publicity here, so maybe one day they will. When I did the blood test there, my testosterone came back as around 12 out of 36, which I'll put the screenshot here. It was just one blood test that I did there, which showed only my testosterone, which explained a lot. Symptoms wise, I had no issues with things like sex drive or libido, anything like that. I don't think fertility would have been an issue really at that point, but it was fatigue, exhaustion, lack of progression with training, my lifts all being the same. I wasn't in bad shape by any means, but my body composition shifted more to having more body fat than it normally would, which was out of character for me as well. So this just goes to show that you can really look after yourself, but mentally this can put you the wrong way. And the route most guys will take is sometimes antidepressants, or sometimes they'll just turn a blind eye to it and expect it to get better, which it doesn't. So anyways, I started on a course of TRT, and it was quite a low dose, 0.4 of a mil a week of testosterone enanthate. That ran me for about 4 months, I'd say. Yeah, about 4 months, because I stopped on November the 8th. And I'll talk about the reasons I stopped, but I'll talk about the benefits I got. So I saw a huge improvement in mood, focus, and stress management. I saw a huge improvement in terms of training performance, training recovery, and overall kind of life mission. felt very clear. During that period, I managed to better my career. I managed to get a better position. Started working with a company called MTN. And then I also just, picked myself up out of a dark place, because the depression was real. I realized how much of a hole I was in. Because my body had what it needed, it was like I'd kind of got that kind of instinct back. So that was great, but about halfway through, maybe about 10 weeks in, I started to feel like it was suppressing my natural libido quite a lot, and I wasn't really as interested in that aspect of things, which wasn't enjoyable for me because I don't have children, but I've considered having children, and I'm definitely open to the idea of doing that. So I decided that I don't really want to keep doing this. If this is how it's going to feel. I did try to take some HCG, which you can look into. HCG was probably too late in the process of taking that for it to really do much. It did improve my libido a little bit, and it helped improve testicular kind of volume, which I think can really decrease when you take it. And I took some clomiphene as well, but I felt like it was too late by that point, and it's a lot of money to be spending on that kind of stuff as well. So anyways, I came off it, went back to Bali for a couple of weeks, went to Hong Kong for a lovely trip, and then came back and took more HCG and Clomid for about a month, and things felt absolutely incredible then in terms of libido, in terms of everything from that period. So that's back at a really healthy position. I felt like that was good. That was back to normal. Training, the first week of being off, I felt a lot of tiredness, and I felt a lot of low mood until I started taking HCG, which seemed to bring me back. Training recovery took a while to get back to normal, but I started a new training cycle because I wanted to make sure that I didn't go back comparing to how things looked previously. Then things leveled out in December. So it was obviously November. I came back late November, and mid-December to late December, things were feeling back to normal. I felt great, felt pretty awesome. And then obviously through January, we're just the 4th of February today, things were fine. Then I've started feeling like the seasonal kind of thing started to hit me a bit more recently. So I recently done a blood test, and I'll include the bloods from both of those tests. So the first one, I took bloods whilst I was on, so those I'll include as well. And everything's a bit unclear once you take bloods whilst you're on, but obviously testosterone was high and natural production was low. But the one I took recently, my testosterone levels have been massively increased naturally. So that, I've been running sort of natural supplements. So I've tried TRT, come off it, try naturally boosting it, and that's worked quite well because my levels are higher. My testosterone levels are higher than they were, which is amazing, to be honest. So very positive sign there. But I'm in the position now of reviewing my bloods and deciding if I go back on. So that's my story of testosterone replacement therapy. Would I recommend it to you? If your testosterone levels are below, I'd say about 16, and you feel like your fatigue is there, you feel like you actually have mentally, you fall into a little bit of a hole, body fat levels are not good. Those are things to consider, but also I think that if you've been very experienced with weightlifting for many, many years, it's worthwhile. But if you've not been a big lifter for a while, and you've not seen your natural plateau from doing enough low volume training, I don't think it's worthwhile, because you can still get a lot of benefits from just doing it naturally. The difference is that I've been training very, very hard for many, many years, and I'd hit my natural plateau, and for me to get back up to that point, for me to have low testosterone, I really noticed it, and it was more of a mental thing. And the UK, you'll probably get access to antidepressants, which I don't think are a good idea. I think that was something that helped me more so than doing that. My mental health now is good, a little bit shaky, but sometimes it's, we all have issues with that, but I've not found myself slipping into that hole. So yeah, would I recommend it? I think it's a great thing to do if it suits the point in life that you're at. If you've tried everything naturally and you just still find that you're at a bit of a wall, you're feeling fatigued all the time, you don't have good libido, you don't have all these kind of things, and you just simply want to give yourself like a short-term lift up with things, I think it's really, really good. I don't know if it's something that a lot of people take it all year round. I don't know if it's something I would do. If I found like a protocol of being able to take it whilst keeping my natural fertility, in check, my natural sex drive in check, then potentially it's something I would do later in life. But in terms of my knowledge on it now, I feel quite, I feel like I know a lot about it, and I know enough about it to kind of advise, not prescribe. It's not my thing at all. It's a self-administered thing. It's your decision to do it. But yeah, I think there is a lot of really, really beneficial things you can get from it, but you need to be in the right position, and you should be looking at natural supplementation first. You should be optimizing your diet and your lifestyle and your training before you consider taking it. And that's what I'd have to say about TRT. I think it's an amazing thing, but you have to earn the right to really take it, in my opinion. And you have to try a good few things first. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it. That's my journey on it. I'm at a crossroads now, deciding if I go back onto TRT, because my blood work was quite good recently. So it's one of those where I'm going to speak to a good few people that I know that know a lot more than I do, and are very experienced in this area. But optimizing your hormones as a man is something we should all be doing. We should be looking at doing it, and there is not a stigma as long as you're not abusing it and using it as, treating it like a steroid, treating it like something that you're going too far down the performance enhancement route. I think that's a different thing entirely. But if you're using it just simply to keep your levels at the same amount, and you're doing your due diligence with your diet, things like that, it's just going to give you a constant baseline. It's going to make sure things are always level, and it's going to keep your mental health in check. So it's an incredibly beneficial thing. There are things that you need to look at with it. You need to take blood work consistently, but that's my experience on TRT, and I think that I won't be quick to advise it to somebody unless they're in the same position that I was in. They're doing all of those things, but they're still feeling like shit, and they're still feeling really low. So that's what I say to that. If you have any comments or questions about what I've said there about TRT, then please leave a comment below. If you are currently taking TRT and you want to chat to me about it a bit more, absolutely we can do that.